The night was quiet. Only the soft wind moved across the barren land. The human outpost stood alone at the edge of the desert, its lights glowing like tiny stars against the endless darkness. Most of the soldiers inside were half asleep, thinking nothing ever happened here, but tonight would change everything. Without warning, the ground began to shake. A loud roar filled the sky, and a burning streak of fire tore across the heavens. The soldiers rushed outside, staring up as a strange craft fell from the stars. It moved like nothing human, its body twisting with sharp angles and glowing lines. Then it crashed with a thunder that shook the earth, exploding dust and flame high into the air. Contact! Incoming contact! The alarms screamed. Men and women grabbed their rifles, rushing toward the crash site. Some were excited, others were afraid, but no one could deny this was something new. Something not of Earth. The commander, a tall man with scarred cheeks, led the patrol. His boots sank into the sand as he pushed forward. Eyes locked on the smoke rising in the distance. "Stay sharp," he ordered, his voice steady but his heart pounding inside his chest. They had trained for many dangers, but not for this, never for this. As they reached the wreck, they stopped in silence. The ship was torn open like a broken shell. Pieces glowing red with heat, strange symbols marked the metal. Alive with faint blue light, the air smelled of burning stone and something sharp, almost like ozone after lightning. Then a figure moved inside the wreck. The soldiers raised their rifles instantly. Fingers ready on the trigger, out of the smoke came a tall shape. Her skin pale with a strange silver shine. Her eyes glowed faintly, catching the firelight like mirrors. She stumbled forward, falling to her knees in the sand, her body trembling as if broken. "Hold fire," the commander shouted, though he did not know why. Something in her face stopped him. She was not a monster, not a machine, but alive. She lifted her head slowly. Her lips parted as she whispered in a trembling voice, "Please, let me stay here." The words froze everyone. Her voice was clear, strange, but still human enough to understand. The soldiers looked at each other, confused, some afraid, some curious, an alien, speaking their language, begging for mercy. The commander stepped closer, his hand raised to keep his soldiers calm. The alien woman's eyes locked on him, full of desperation and fear. Her body shook as if she had been running for 1,000 years. "I can give you what no human woman can," she said, her voice breaking with urgency. The soldiers whispered among themselves, "What is she talking about?" One asked, "Is it a trick?" Another muttered, but no one dared to move, their eyes fixed on the strange figure in the sand. The commander's chest tightened. He could feel the weight of her words. This was not some random survivor of a crash. She had come here for a reason. And whatever that reason was, it would not be small behind them. The wreck hissed and groaned, smoke rising higher into the sky. The desert wind carried the heat across their faces. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. The alien woman tried to rise, her legs weak, her silver skin marked with glowing cuts. She failed and collapsed again, her hands digging into the sand. Still, she did not beg for water, or help, or mercy. She only begged for one thing. "Let me stay," she whispered again. Softer, but with burning intensity, the commander stared at her. Something inside him told him this moment mattered, that the choice he made tonight could decide the future of the world. He did not know what she truly meant by her promise, but he could feel the truth of her fear. She was running from something far worse than herself. In the distance, thunder rolled across the desert. Though the sky was clear, the soldiers glanced upward, nervously. It was not a storm, not natural. It was something else, something following her. And now it was coming closer. The alien woman lifted her eyes once more. Her lips trembled as she spoke the same words, but now filled with dread. "Please. Let me stay here, and I will give you what no human woman can." The commander swallowed hard. For the first time in years, he felt afraid not of her, but of what might be chasing her, and deep in his heart, he already knew. Earth would never be the same again. The soldiers kept their rifles aimed. Yet none dared to shoot. The strange woman knelt in the sand, her silver skin glowing faintly under the cold moonlight. Her words still hung in the air, heavy and sharp. "I can give you what no human woman can," she had said, her voice breaking. No one moved, no one breathed. As if the world itself had frozen in place, the commander took a careful step forward. His boots pressing into the sand, he studied her, not as an enemy, but as something unknown. Her eyes burned with desperation, but behind that fire was fear. A fear so deep it unsettled even the hardened soldiers who had faced war and death. "What do you mean?" the commander asked, his voice low and steady. The alien woman lifted her head, strands of silver hair falling across her face. Her lips parted, trembling as she spoke. "If I return to the stars, they will find me," she whispered. "And when they find me, they will burn your world." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably, their rifles lowering slightly. One muttered, "She's lying," while another whispered, "No." "Look at her." The commander raised his hand, silencing them all. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "What are you offering?" he demanded. Her voice grew sharper now, desperate yet strong. "I offer protection. I offer knowledge. I offer a chance for survival." Her chest heaved as she spoke, every word laced with urgency. "What I give, no human woman can give. Not because I am greater, but because I am hunted. And my hunters will not stop." Her words struck the soldiers like knives. The night air grew colder, as if shadows gathered around them. One soldier spat on the ground, shaking his head. "This is madness, Commander. She's just trying to trick us." But another whispered, "And what if she's telling the truth?" The commander's mind raced. He had seen the wreck, the strange metal glowing with alien fire. He had heard the thunder in the sky without clouds. Something was out there, and it was not human. Perhaps she was the only thing standing between them and whatever was coming. The alien woman struggled to rise, her body trembling, but her will unbroken. She stood on unsteady legs, towering slightly over the commander. Her glowing eyes locked on his, fierce and pleading at the same time. "Let me stay here," she begged again, "and I will give you the means to fight back. The means to survive what is coming." The soldiers murmured behind him. One hissed, "She's dangerous." Another muttered, "But we need her." The commander's hand hovered over his weapon, torn between fear and duty. This was no ordinary decision. This was history, unfolding in the sand beneath their feet. "What if we refuse?" the commander finally asked, his voice heavy. The alien woman's expression darkened, her eyes glistening with sorrow. "Then you die," she said simply, her words falling like ice. "Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, when the hunters come. Your world will end." Her honesty cut deeper than any threat could. She was not boasting. She was not begging now. She was warning, and in her voice there was no doubt. The commander stared at her, his jaw tight. She seemed weak, broken, almost fragile. Yet in her presence he felt the shadow of something vast, something greater than Earth had ever faced. He could not shake the feeling that if he turned her away, their deaths would follow. A sudden sound broke the silence, a distant crack in the sky, like glass shattering across the heavens. The soldiers spun around, scanning the darkness. The alien woman flinched, her eyes widening in terror. "They are close," she gasped. "Closer than I thought." The commander clenched his fists. He wanted answers. He wanted time. But the night was running out. The woman stepped forward, her knees buckling but her voice strong. "I can bind myself to you, to your kind," she said. "My power, my knowledge, I will give it freely. But only if you let me stay. Only if you protect me." Her words echoed like a vow. A promise carved into the night. The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. Caught between fear and hope, the commander's eyes narrowed, his heart heavy with the weight of choice. If she was lying, they would all pay the price. If she spoke the truth, then Earth itself depended on him. The desert wind howled, carrying the scent of smoke and fear. The stars above seemed to flicker as if watching in silence. The alien woman's voice cracked one final time. "Let me stay here, and I will give you what no human woman can." The commander's breath caught in his chest. He did not yet know what she truly meant, but he felt the pull of destiny in her words, and deep inside, he already knew that refusing her was no longer an option. The desert air grew heavier, as if the night itself was listening. The alien woman stood weakly, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes burned with both fear and urgency. The soldiers kept their rifles steady, but none of them fired. Something in her presence made it impossible to see her as just an enemy. The commander's voice cut through the silence. "You say they are close," he said. "Who are they?" The alien woman's lips trembled before she answered. "They are hunters," she whispered, her words sharp as broken glass. "They follow me across the stars, and when they find me, they destroy everything around me." The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. One muttered under his breath, "Hunters. Out there." Another shook his head, his hands sweating on his rifle. "This is insane, Commander. She's just trying to scare us." But no one could ignore the trembling in her voice. The fear etched deep into her bones. The alien woman turned her gaze to the stars, her eyes wide with dread. "They are not coming for you," she said slowly. "They are coming for me." Her voice grew harder, louder, "but once they reach me, your planet will burn with me. They do not leave witnesses. They do not forgive. They consume everything." The commander felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen battles. He had fought enemies. But nothing like this. This was not war. This was extermination. The soldiers shifted, restless and uneasy. Their eyes darted to the horizon as if expecting shadows to rise from the sand. The woman sank back to her knees, her body trembling as though she could barely hold herself together. Her voice softened, but her words struck harder. "I ran, I fought, I hid, but they always find me, always, and now. I am out of places to run." She closed her eyes, tears glistening like liquid silver. "If you send me away, you will not survive. If you keep me, you may still have a chance." The commander crouched down, his shadow falling over her. "What chance?" he asked, his voice calm but urgent. The woman's eyes opened slowly. Meeting his, "I know their weapons, their ships, their minds," she said. "I know their weakness, but alone. I cannot fight them. With you, with your kind, maybe. Maybe we can resist." Her words struck deep. It was not a boast. It was not arrogance. It was a confession of weakness mixed with hope. The soldiers leaned closer, their fear battling with curiosity. Even the most doubtful among them began to wonder if she was their only hope. The night sky cracked again, a faint pulse of light flashing across the stars. The alien woman's head snapped upward, her eyes wide with panic. "They are marking the skies," she whispered. "They are searching. Their machines can already smell me here." She grabbed the commander's arm with surprising strength. "Please, you must choose now. Protect me, or lose everything." Her grip sent a shiver through him. It was not just physical strength, it was the weight of desperation. The weight of an entire world's survival. The commander stood slowly. His soldiers watching him with tense faces. "What if you're lying?" he asked, his voice steady but uncertain. The woman's gaze did not falter. Her reply was sharp and cold. "Then I die here, and you still die with me. Because they will not stop at me. They will erase your kind to keep their secret hidden." The silence after her words was crushing. The wind swept across the sand, carrying the smell of smoke from her broken ship. The wreck still hissed and groaned, glowing faintly as if alive. Every soldier felt it now that this was bigger than them, bigger than Earth. They were standing at the edge of something they could not fully understand. The alien woman released his arm and lowered her head. Her voice broke into a whisper once more. "Let me stay. And I will give you what no human woman can knowledge. Power, survival." Her hands pressed into the sand. Trembling as she added, "But if you turn me away, you will not live long enough to regret it." The commander stared at her. His thoughts heavy and dark. She could be telling the truth, or she could be leading them into doom. But he could not ignore the fear in her eyes, the raw honesty in her trembling voice, and then, as if to seal her warning, the sky thundered again, louder this time. The earth shook faintly beneath their feet, and a red streak of light tore briefly across the heavens. The soldiers gasped, their weapons clutched tighter. The alien woman's head dropped. Her voice low and final. "They are here," she said, each word dripping with dread. The commander's heart pounded as he looked at her. Then at the frightened faces of his soldiers. This was no longer a choice of trust. It was a choice of survival. And the warning had already begun. Asterisk, the red streak faded from the sky, leaving the desert in heavy silence. The soldiers stared upward, their breaths quick, their fingers tight around their rifles. The alien woman knelt in the sand, her silver skin glowing faintly, her body shaking from weakness. Yet her eyes never left the heavens, as if she could see things beyond human sight. "They are close," she whispered. Her voice low but clear. The commander's jaw tightened. He felt the weight of her words pressing on his chest. The soldiers looked to him for orders, their eyes full of fear and doubt. But he had none to give, not yet. The wreck of her ship hissed louder, sparks leaping from its torn frame. Strange symbols along its surface began to flicker. Glowing brighter, the air around it seemed to vibrate, humming with energy that made the soldier's skin crawl. One of them muttered, "That thing's alive." Another spat. "It's a curse, Commander. We should burn it and her together." The alien woman lifted her head at those words, her glowing eyes burning with sudden anger. "You think fire will save you?" she said sharply. Her voice cut through the night like a blade. "They will come with storms of fire, with machines that drink your weapons like water. If you burn me, you burn your only chance to live." The soldiers fell quiet. Shamed by the force in her words, the commander raised his hand to silence them further. But before he could speak, a sharp alarm blared across the camp. The sound was piercing, mechanical, and desperate. Every head turned as red lights flashed from the outpost towers in the distance. "Unidentified movement," a soldier shouted. Reading from his wrist monitor, the screen blinked with strange signals. Shapes moving where nothing should move. The commander's heart sank. It had begun. The alien woman staggered to her feet, her knees weak, but her voice strong. "They've sent a scout. They always send one before the storm," she said. Her eyes glowed brighter as she scanned the darkness. "You will see it soon. But you won't hear it until it strikes." The soldiers spread out, rifles raised, nerves stretched thin. The desert wind whistled, carrying grains of sand across their faces. The night seemed endless, every shadow alive with threat. Then suddenly, one soldier screamed, his body thrown back as if hit by an invisible fist. Blood splattered the sand. His rifle flying into the darkness. Contact. Another shouted, firing blindly. Bullets tore into the night but hit nothing. Only sand and stone. Panic spread like fire. Soldiers shouting, firing, stumbling in fear. The commander barked orders, his voice barely holding them together. Hold your ground, stay sharp, don't waste ammo. Then the alien woman moved. Her body straightened, her glow pulsing brighter. She stepped forward into the open sand. Her silver hair lifting as though alive, her hands stretched outward, and a ripple of light spread across the air. For a moment, the invisible became visible. The soldiers gasped, their eyes widening. A shape shimmered in the air, like glass bending under pressure. The scout was no bigger than a man, but its body twisted with strange angles. Shifting like liquid metal, its eyes burned with crimson fire, and its claws gleamed sharper than blades. The creature screeched, a sound that rattled the bones of everyone who heard it. The alien woman's hands shook as she held the ripple of light around it. "It's cloaked," she shouted, her voice strained. "Shoot now." Before it breaks free, the commander did not hesitate. "Fire." He ordered, and his soldiers obeyed. Bullets ripped through the air, striking the creature. Sparks and black liquid bursting from its body. The scout staggered, its cloak flickering, its shape twisting violently. Then it leaped forward with terrifying speed, smashing into another soldier, tearing his chest open with a single slash. The alien woman screamed, her voice filled with fury. She threw herself into the fight, her glowing hands striking the creature. Light burned against its dark skin. Sparks flying as the two forces clashed. The soldiers froze, watching her battle it with a strength no human could match. For the first time, they saw her not as a beggar, but as a weapon. The scout shrieked, its body breaking under her glowing strikes. Finally, with one last burst of light, she drove her hand through its chest. The creature convulsed, screeched, then dissolved into black dust that scattered into the wind. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breaths of the survivors. Two soldiers lay dead in the sand, their blood staining the earth. The rest stared at her in awe and horror, their weapons still trembling in their hands. The alien woman collapsed to her knees, her glow fading, her breaths shallow. Her body shook, drained from the fight. But her eyes still burned with fire. She looked up at the commander, her voice a whisper that was only a scout. "The hunters are coming. You see now why I must stay." The commander clenched his fists, his heart heavy. He wanted to deny her, to send her away, to believe this was not real, but the blood in the sand, the broken bodies of his men, told him the truth. This was real. This was only the beginning. The soldiers whispered among themselves, their fear louder than their words. "If that was just one, how do we fight the rest?" One said, "We don't." Another muttered, "We're dead already." But the commander's eyes stayed locked on the alien woman. She had saved them, even as death followed her. The wind carried her last words across the night. "They will come. They will come in numbers you cannot imagine. And when they arrive, you will understand, without me. You will fall in a single night." The commander's chest tightened. He knew this was their first test, and they had barely survived. The real war had not even begun. The desert was quiet again. But it was not the same silence as before. This silence was heavy, filled with fear, blood, and unanswered questions. Two soldiers lay dead, their bodies already covered with sheets. The others stood in uneasy circles, their rifles shaking in their hands. None of them could look away from the alien woman who had fought the invisible scout. She sat in the sand, her body weak, her glow dimmed. Her silver hair clung to her face, and her breaths came sharp and shallow. Still, her eyes blazed with fire, a fire that frightened and fascinated the soldiers. Some saw her as a savior. Others saw her as a curse. The commander walked slowly toward her, his boots crunching in the sand. He stopped only a few feet away, his face grim but controlled. "You fought for us," he said, his voice steady. "But you brought this danger with you." The woman raised her head, her lips trembling. "I told you," she whispered. "Where I go, they follow. But now you see, without me, you are already dead." Her words struck deep. The soldiers shifted nervously, whispering among themselves. "She's right," one muttered. "We couldn't even see that thing without her." But another spat on the ground. Glaring at her, "Two of ours are dead because of her," he hissed. "She should have died with her ship." The tension grew like a storm. Some soldiers looked at her with awe, others with pure hatred. It was as if the camp itself was split in two. The commander raised his hand, silencing them. "This isn't the time," he growled, but even he could feel the division in their ranks. The alien woman tried to rise, stumbling to her feet. Her legs shook, her body weak, but her voice grew strong again. "You must understand," she said, "the scout was nothing, just a shadow. The hunters will come with ships, with fire, with weapons that tear the sky itself apart." She pointed upward, her eyes glowing faintly. "You cannot survive them without me, and I cannot survive them without you." Her words fell heavy. But they did not calm the soldiers. Instead, they sparked new anger, new doubt. One soldier stepped forward, his rifle trembling in his grip. "Why should we trust you?" he demanded, his face twisted with rage. "You say you can protect us, but all you've done is bring death to our camp." The commander moved quickly, grabbing the barrel of the man's rifle and pushing it down. "Enough," he barked, his voice like steel. But he could feel the truth in the man's anger. They were losing balance. Fear was turning them against each other. The alien woman's gaze softened. She looked at the angry soldier, then at the rest. "I am not your enemy," she said quietly. "If I meant to harm you, you would all be dead already." Her words were simple, but they carried a weight that none could deny. Even the angriest among them shifted uncomfortably. Unable to meet her eyes, the commander turned back toward his camp. In the distance, the red warning lights still blinked. The outpost was alive with chatter, soldiers calling in reports of strange signals. The airwaves were filled with static, broken voices, and distant echoes that chilled the blood. The hunt had already begun inside the command tent. The commander stood with his officers. The alien woman remained outside, watched by uneasy guards. Maps and monitors covered the tables, glowing with alerts. More signals were appearing on the edges of their scanners. Too fast, too faint, too strange to be natural. "They're surrounding us," one officer muttered, his voice tight with fear. The commander's eyes narrowed. He knew the truth now. They could not win this alone. But admitting that meant admitting she was right. And that was a truth his men were not ready to hear. Outside, the alien woman sat in silence. Her gaze was fixed on the stars, her lips moving softly as if whispering to herself. The guards watched her with suspicion, their hands never far from their triggers. One finally asked, his voice nervous, "What are you saying?" She turned to him slowly, her eyes glowing faintly. "I am asking the stars to give me strength for when the hunters come. They will not stop until either I or all of you are dead." The guard swallowed hard, his throat dry. Her words were not threats. They were promises, promises carried on the wind. The camp grew restless, whispers spreading like fire. Some believed she was a gift, a weapon they needed. Others believed she was a curse that would doom them all. The commander returned from the tent, his face carved with lines of worry. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "We will keep you here," he said finally, his voice low. "But if you betray us, if you bring more death than life, I will end you myself." The alien woman bowed her head slightly. "You will not need to," she whispered, "for if I fail, I will already be dead." The soldiers stood in uneasy silence. No one cheered, no one smiled. The night air was thick with fear and mistrust, but also with something else, something unspoken. Hope, fragile and dangerous, but hope all the same, far above. The stars flickered faintly, and in the distance, the desert trembled with echoes of engines too far to see. The first test was over, but the real storm was still waiting beyond the horizon. The night air shook with a low hum, faint at first, then rising. It was not the sound of the desert wind, not the rumble of thunder. It was mechanical, heavy, and alive with menace. The soldiers froze where they stood, their faces pale as the hum grew louder. The alien woman lifted her head sharply, her glowing eyes wide with dread. "They are here," she whispered, her voice cutting through the silence. Every soldier gripped his rifle tighter, some whispering curses under their breath. The commander stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Everyone to positions," he barked, his voice steady, though his stomach turned. The camp burst into motion, alarms wailing, searchlights blazing across the desert. In the distance, shapes moved against the night sky. At first, they looked like falling stars, streaks of fire cutting through the heavens, but as they drew closer, their forms sharpened sleek black craft with wings that shifted like blades. Their lights burned red, piercing the dark like watching eyes. The hum turned into a roar, shaking the very ground beneath the soldiers' boots. The alien woman staggered to her feet. Weak but unyielding, she raised her arms, her silver skin glowing brighter. "They send the hunters first," she said, her voice firm. "Then the destroyers. They test you before they erase you." Her words struck fear into the men. If this was only a test, the real storm would be far worse. The first ship descended with terrifying speed. Sand blasted across the camp as it landed, its metal body gleaming with shifting patterns of light. From its belly, figures emerged, tall and dark, their armor fused with strange machinery. Their movements were smooth, inhuman, their crimson eyes glowing like fire. The hunters had arrived. The soldiers opened fire, bullets tearing through the night, but the hunters moved with unnatural speed, dodging and weaving like shadows come to life. Their weapons fired back, beams of red light cutting through steel and flesh alike. Tents burst into flame, towers collapsed, and men screamed as their bodies fell into the sand. The battle had begun. The commander shouted orders, his voice drowned by the chaos. "Hold the line. Don't let them through," he roared, but fear spread faster than courage. The hunters were stronger, faster, deadlier. Every shot that struck them seemed to barely slow them down. Then the alien woman stepped forward, her glow blazing, her hands burned with light. Casting long shadows across the battlefield, "Fall back," she cried. "Let me face them." The commander hesitated only a second before shouting, "Give her cover, now." She leaped into the fray, her body moving with speed no human could follow. Her glowing strikes slammed into the hunters, breaking their armor, burning their skin. Each clash shook the ground, sparks flying as alien power collided with alien flesh. The soldiers stared in awe, their fear mixing with hope. For the first time, the hunters staggered, pushed back by her fury, but every strike cost her strength. Her glow dimmed with each blow, her breaths sharp and ragged. The commander saw her faltering and ordered his men to fire again. Now, while they're distracted, he shouted. Bullets and rockets filled the air, slamming into the hunters. Breaking their lines, one hunter fell, its body shattering into shards of black metal. Another screeched as its chest burst open under a glowing strike. The tide shifted slightly, but only slightly. For every hunter that fell, another pressed forward. Relentless, unstoppable. The soldiers realized they were fighting, not for victory, but for survival. The alien woman stumbled, nearly falling. The commander rushed to her side, grabbing her arm. "You'll kill yourself if you keep this up," he growled. She looked at him, her eyes burning with both pain and fire. "If I stop, you will all die," she answered. Her voice raw. A blast struck the ground near them, throwing sand and smoke into the air. The commander shielded her with his body, his ears ringing. When the dust cleared, more ships were descending. Their shadows stretching across the desert, the soldiers gasped in despair. "This is only the beginning," one whispered, his voice trembling. The alien woman pushed herself free of the commander's grip. Her glow flared once more. Though it burned her from within, she turned to him. Her voice steady but filled with warning. "You must decide now. Trust me and fight beside me. Or watch your world fall in a single night." Her words cut deeper than any blade. The commander's heart thundered in his chest. He looked at his soldiers, afraid, wounded, but still standing. He looked at the alien woman, weak, desperate, but still fighting. And then he looked at the hunters. Marching forward like shadows of death, the choice was clear. Even if it meant trusting a stranger from the stars, he raised his rifle high. His voice roaring over the chaos, "Stand with her. Fight with everything you've got." The soldiers rallied, their fear turning into desperate fury. They fired, they fought, they bled, and beside them, the alien woman burned brighter than the stars. The invasion had begun, and the world would never be the same again. The desert burned with fire and smoke. The hunters moved like shadows, their red eyes glowing through the dust. The human outpost shook under the storm of beams and bullets. But still the soldiers held their line, their hearts pounding with fear and fury. And in the center of it all stood the alien woman, her silver skin glowing brighter than before. Every strike from her hands cracked the air with light. When she moved, hunters fell, their black armor splitting open under her power. She fought like a storm given shape, but each blow drained her strength. Her breaths grew harsh, her body trembling. Yet she refused to fall. The commander stayed close, shouting orders. Firing his rifle until it was empty. "Hold the flank," he roared, his voice carrying above the chaos. The soldiers obeyed, forming tight groups, covering each other as the hunters pressed harder. For every one they killed, 2 more came from the ships. The air filled with smoke, screams, and the sickening sound of burning metal and flesh. But the humans fought on, their courage feeding the fire in their eyes. The alien woman's glow dimmed, her strikes slower now. Blood, silver, and strange streaked her arms. She staggered but caught herself, her eyes blazing. "I cannot stop," she muttered. More to herself than to anyone else. "If I fall, so do they." A hunter leaped at her. Its claws raised high, she caught it mid-air. Her light piercing through its chest. It shrieked before dissolving into dust. But the force of the blow knocked her back. She stumbled, almost falling, until the commander grabbed her arm. "You can't keep this up," he shouted. His voice rough. She looked at him, her eyes wild. "Neither can you," she answered, "but still you fight." Her words struck him deep. She was no longer just a stranger. She was a soldier like them, bleeding, breaking, but refusing to stop. Then the ground shook violently. A larger ship descended, its body twice the size of the others. Its engines roared, casting waves of sand across the battlefield. From its hull emerged something bigger, heavier, covered in dark plates of shifting metal. A war beast, a hunter commander, towering over all. The soldiers froze in terror, some stumbling back. The alien woman's face paled, her glow flickering. "They've sent a commander," she gasped. "This is their champion, their executioner, the massive creature roared, its voice shaking the air, and then it charged. The alien woman moved first. Forcing her broken body to fight again, she leapt forward, light exploding from her hands as she struck the beast. But its armor absorbed the blow, sparks flying harmlessly into the night. The monster swung its massive claws. Throwing her across the sand, she hit the ground hard. Her body rolling, her glow nearly fading, the commander's heart clenched. He raised his rifle, firing at the beast. The bullets bounced off like rain against stone. "Fall back," one soldier shouted, fear breaking his voice. But the commander stood his ground. "Cover her," he roared. "Don't let it reach her." The soldiers obeyed, firing rockets, grenades, every weapon they had. Explosions lit the desert, shaking the night. But the beast pushed forward through fire and smoke, unstoppable. Its eyes burned red. Fixed only on the alien woman, she forced herself to stand. Her body trembling, blood streaked her mouth. Her glow weak, but her will unbroken. She turned to the commander, her voice raw and fierce. "Order them to hold," she said. "Give me one chance." "Just one." The commander hesitated. Then nodded sharply. The soldiers drew back. Firing only to slow the beast, the alien woman raised her hands. Her glow flaring bright again, she screamed. A sound filled with rage and pain. Light burst from her body, searing across the battlefield. The monster roared, staggering under the force. But it did not fall. It struck back, its claws slamming into the ground near her. The shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet. The commander rushed forward, empty rifle in hand. He slammed into the beast's leg, shouting for his men to aim higher together. Human firepower and her burning light combined. The beast shrieked, its armor cracking under the relentless assault. The alien woman threw everything she had into one final strike. Her glow erupted like a star, burning through the monster's chest. It roared one last time before collapsing, shaking the desert as it fell. The battlefield fell silent, only smoke, fire, and the ragged breathing of survivors remained. The soldiers looked at each other, stunned, their hands shaking. They had stood against something impossible. And they were still alive, but only because of her. The alien woman dropped to her knees, her glow fading to almost nothing. Her body swayed, weak and broken. The commander rushed to her side. Kneeling beside her, "You're hurt," he said. His voice heavy. She looked at him, her lips trembling with the faintest of smiles. "I gave you what no human woman could," she whispered, her voice fading. The power to survive the hunter's first strike. Her eyes closed. Her body limp. The commander caught her before she fell to the ground. And in that moment, he understood this battle was only the beginning.